Hey, my name is Chris, and I want to talk to you today about the unifying Spirit of God. In the last few videos, we've been just making our way through this progression of how the Spirit of God helps us engage in the work of racial justice in the world. And so I want to talk specifically today from Ephesians 2, and I'm going to read to you Ephesians 2:14 through 18 to kind of set the stage, and then I'll unpack the role of the unifying Spirit in that. So here's what Paul writes. Paul is the author of Ephesians. He wrote this letter to essentially these group of people who are learning to be the multi-ethnic family of God. That's what they're trying to become. How do they become this church that is representative of different cultures, different people, different nations? And so he says this in Ephesians 2:14 through 18. He says, "For Christ himself has brought peace to us. He united Jews and Gentiles into one people when in his own body on the cross he broke down the wall of hostility that separated us. He did this by ending the system of law with its commandments and regulations. He made peace between Jews and Gentiles by creating in them one new people from the two groups. Together as one body, Christ reconciled both groups to God by means of his death on the cross, and our hostility toward each other was put to death. He brought this good news of peace to you Gentiles who were far away from him, and peace to the Jews who were near. Now all of us can come to the Father through the same Holy Spirit because of what Christ has done for us." And so in the work of aligning our lives with the unifying Spirit of God, there's this reality that there is a time in which those were separate. And I think we're feeling that with a different kind of intensity in our current cultural moment as it pertains to racism. And what we've done is that we've actually constructed a wall ourselves that separates us from one another. God always intended, just as he talked about here, to break down that wall so that we might become one together. That's what Jesus was doing on the cross, right? He died so that we might become one with one another and therefore reconciled with God. And every time we come together as a new humanity, we actually are in the presence of God. God joins us in that place. So that the challenge becomes then, how do we follow the unifying Spirit into this space? We have to identify in our lives all of the places where walls are being constructed. And that we look across this wall or over the wall, and what happens in that space is we have hostility towards the other. And I think it can happen both ways, right? It's not just like a white-black issue, like that sort of thing. It's like a people issue, but we're seeing it played out most predominantly in the way in which we construct up a racist wall to keep people away from us. Now, certainly there's many layers to all of that, but the Spirit of God is actually inviting us to do what? To participate in breaking it down, because that's what Jesus was doing from the beginning. What's really interesting about this too is that Jesus ended this hostility. He put it to death on the cross, right? But he also put an end to systems that kept people separated. So when you start to think about how the unifying Spirit might move through your own life, pay attention to systems that have been constructed to separate people from one another. How will you join the work of God in that place? How will you go into that space, help the wall be torn down so that unity might take place again? And unity not just for unity's sake, unity for the sake of God's people, right? Every time the multi-ethnic family of God joins together in unity, hostility is put to death. Like, what? Shouldn't that be the thing we're all after, we all want, we all believe in? And the reality is that God, one, has already gone before us and done that work through the person of Jesus. He models it to us, even what the church should be and look like in the book of Ephesians. And now we get to go in and act that and join the unifying Spirit in the world. So I ask you, where are people separated? Have eyes to see. Where are walls being built up that are hostile towards those on the other side? Have eyes to see. And where then do the people of God need to be unified back to reconciliation with one another and to God, and join in that work? Because the unifying Spirit of God is in you.